今黄金のマスクがよみがえるパーソナルワークステーション X68000。
Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today we're continuing a series on the Sharp X68000, my favorite games to play for it. And if you can't tell already, we're taking a look at Geograph Seal today. It is one of the few games on the X68000 that actually renders real-time polygons, and while it's definitely not texture mapped, and it definitely is rudimentary, the fact that this system can do it in and of itself is absolutely outstanding. Before we get too far involved, though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But I remember a long time ago, like maybe the late 90s or early 2000s, when I first heard about the Sharp X68000, seeing screenshots of this game online and having no idea that this could actually handle polygons, because this was released in 1994. Obviously time has gone on, I played the game a bunch and I'm now making a video on it, but even to this day in 2024 it still seems wildly impressive that the X68000 could even render a polygon in and of itself. And if any of this gameplay, any of the graphical style, or any of this jumping looks familiar, this is basically the game that came before Jumping Flash, and Jumping Flash is basically a spiritual sequel to this game, and I will show you some footage of Jumping Flash in just a bit so I can tie them both together. But right off the top, Geograph Seal is just an impressive game. It is pushing the hardware to its absolute limit, showing people things that they never thought possible, and it's also providing a very fun, if not slightly difficult game in the process. This definitely isn't the fastest frame rate ever, but it works in the context of what's going on. It is a first-person shooter. Every level you have to shoot so many different targets until you can go into a boss fight. You have a radar on screen showing you where enemies are, as well as indicating what direction those targets may be. When you first pick up and play this game, navigating the world can be a little difficult until you understand how the radar works, but once you figure out how to navigate, you're going to be absolutely engrossed in this game. And I think this holds up so well visually too. Sure, there's maybe only 100 polygons on screen at once, but because they're all flat shaded and they're stylized, you can tell what the artists are trying to represent, and it actually ages better than when they would do texture map polygons in the mid-90s. Those games usually did not age well whatsoever. And this kind of feels like a cross between Iron Soldier on the Atari Jaguar and the visual look of hard driving from Atari in arcades, except here it's in a first-person format, and that's why I think of Iron Soldier the most outside of Jumping Flash. And speaking of Jumping Flash, that's the interesting thing. The developers Exact would basically go on to be, for the most part, folded into Sony as Japan Studio. Now, if you don't know their name, they made some of the most quintessentially classic games for the PlayStation 1, 2, and 3. But you saw that All Targets Destroyed there. Look at that font, and as we move into Jumping Flash, you get the exact same font. Jumping Flash is just a more fully realized version of Geograph Seal. This is just the same game except on PlayStation 1 hardware. As I cut from one jump to the other, you can absolutely see where Jumping Flash gets its style from. Look at these enemies here. They are polygons, but they are definitely chunky, and they definitely have a very firm style to them. They actually use less polygons than they probably could have gotten away with to keep that style up. Now, as we move to an enemy on the Jumping Flash side, you're going to see again the PlayStation 1 could push way more polygons than that for actual enemies or any sort of models, but they kept that same artistic style all the way through in the enemies, and you can just see how these two games are so closely related. And the developers of this game would go on to make so many games as Japan Studio, but this is a lot of where they got their start, and it is just such an interesting history lesson in the development of video games, not only from the fact that the Sharp X68000 was rendering in full 3D, but this would inspire one of the first PlayStation 1 games, and the team would go on to make so many amazing titles for Sony. And it's so sad that Japan Studios basically ceases to exist at this point in time. I would say they were Sony's best developer ever. Believe me, comment down below and tell me what you think. But as we navigate further around the world of Geograph Seal here, it is just such a charming place. That 2D background art with pixels and textures, and then all of these flat shaded polygons just build a world that is so impressive to see, and those dithering shadows really work in context as well. But I would say one of my absolute favorite parts of this game is the soundtrack. It is so good. It's maybe one of the best soundtracks on the entirety of the X68000 hardware. So go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds or so, but come back as I got a lot more history of Exact, this game, and the hardware. Enjoy! That is just a great song no matter how you slice it, and hearing it come out of the X68000 sound hardware makes it even better. But I love this intro. It has just enough polygons to have style and for you to understand what you're looking at, but it has so few polygons it also has a charm and sense of wonder all its own. And you put those two things together and you have an amazing game. And that's why a lot of times hardware constraints actually breed creativity. If they could have put up 100,000 polygons on screen at once, this game may not have been anywhere near as charming. Now I will say though, it is not an easy game. You're going to want to read some walkthroughs on this, especially in the boss areas. Trying to actually understand where you can hit a boss and being able to avoid the weapons is going to be quite difficult. And the unfortunate part is, anytime you die in a level, it goes back to the start and you have to destroy the targets again before you can get to the main boss, as you see here. So the game can be punishing sometimes. It's definitely going to cause you to lose progress, and that might annoy you a little bit. But honestly, once you get the hang of the game, beating this only takes like 20 minutes. There aren't that many levels in it, and it is such a visual spectacle. But look at this boss here. It's just a gigantic thing in an open area, and if we move over to Jumping Flash again, you're going to see some comparisons. Those islands circling the boss, a large polygonal boss around you. It's basically like an enhanced version of Geograph Seal with a completely different theming, being Jumping Flash. And as we move back into the main area again, all of these different platforms, these enemy gun turrets here, I love how low poly they are. That entire thing there was probably made up of 10 total polygons, and something like this ship here maybe has 20 in total, but somehow they're instantaneously recognizable as what they should be. As we jump up onto this platform here and take a look at the world, this is a pretty decent frame rate for what's going on. You're going to get inundated with enemies, you're going to get inundated with bullets, and the game manages to actually keep up with itself, which is probably the most impressive thing, because by 1994, even though the Sharp X68000 is a powerful piece of hardware, there were so many other bits of hardware on the market, including 3DO, that could 100% outdo this. So the fact that they got it in 3D, let alone fast enough to be able to actually be playable, is a testament to just how good the developers of this game were. This is exact firing on all cylinders on hardware that they knew, loved, and fondly developed for. And that's why the Sharp X68000 is such a unique and loved machine. There's so many incredible 2D games on it, but sometimes you get something like Geograph Seal, which totally changes your expectations of what the hardware could do. But one more taste of the soundtrack, this one's even better, and I'll be right back. The music is the intros of this game, and the interlevel cutscenes just ooze style, but the greatest part is, this game is not style over substance, it's style combined along with substance, because the substance of the actual gameplay just holds your interest. It's not just because it's a curiosity, seeing hardware that was never designed to run in 3D, run 3D, it is just a fun game. You get to navigate a full open world space using this radar, fighting enemies, trying to destroy different targets, and having a boss battle in each different arena. It is 100% worth your time in playing, and do be aware that if you do want to play this game, there's a version out there that allows you unlimited credits, because by default this game is only going to let you continue a few times and it's going to throw you right back to the beginning. So if you really want to get to Geograph Seal, definitely look for the version that has the system disk hacked so that you can have unlimited continues. It's going to make your life a lot easier. But even with that, actually seeing the credits on this game is going to take you a little bit of time, learning how to navigate the world, learning how to use that heads-up radar system, and understanding where you need to hit the bosses. But the entire time you're trying to learn this game, you're having an absolute metric ton of fun doing it, and that's all I really care about a game. And I just love that this one is so basic. It does just enough with the polygons and the 3D to be effective without trying to do too much, and that restraint in the design and everything, it just works. I just wish that it explained bosses a little bit more. You need to get in the right spot here, and you need to be able to hit that red target in the middle, because a lot of times jumping on things is going to be to your benefit, but this boss here basically has a lock on you the entire time with its own shots. But take my word for it, if you've never played Geograph Seal before, if you've never heard of it before, definitely give it a go. It emulates, you do not need to have real Sharp X68000 hardware to play this, and it is highly worth your time. But if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Tell me if you ever played the game, I would be curious. I'll be back next week with more X68000. Bye bye.